All right. My name is Krista Moroder. I am the K-12 Technology Integrator for the School District of Kettle Moraine in Wisconsin. Woo, Wisconsin! All right. Yes. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is our 3-year technology plan for the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, which sounds super boring. I realize that, but I promise I will make it fun. All right. So one of the things that we worked on this year was our big professional development plan for the next 3 years. And what we wanted our teachers to do was to be able to meet the NETs for teachers. You're all at ISTE. These are the standards that teachers are supposed to be able to meet. So the first thing I did when I showed up at my job, I have 4 elementary schools, a middle school, a high school, a virtual charter school, a performance-based charter school, a K-5 multi-age charter school, was this big question: how do we help every single teacher learn how to use technology? I had 500 teachers. There was one of me. I didn't know where to start. And the first thing I realized when I showed up and started presenting and got glassy-eyed faces was why? Why should we even have teachers learn how to use technology? We keep talking on and on about how it's innovative and it's creative, but the fact of the matter is, I had some amazing teachers and they did not use technology. My first year teaching, I'm just going to put this completely out there, I was an awful teacher. I wasn't completely awful, but I could have been a lot better. I threw all of my homework online, and these kids were marching through standards like they were worksheets. They weren't actually creating. They weren't actually being innovative. And when I was looking at these teachers who weren't using technology, a lot of them were actually building authentic learning experiences for their students. Their classrooms were social. These kids were engaged. And I was sticking them in front of a computer, and they were becoming zombies. So the question was, how do we actually get them to learn pedagogical skills through technology? So the big thing is personalizing learning. Now that's the big keyword right now. The fact of the matter is we've been trying to personalize learning forever, and I'm going to explain that in a second. So these teachers that I had that were that good were that amazing because they built these rich performance-based assessments. I had this teacher who had us do this big service learning project. We went out into our community. We tried to fix something. We used a notebook to record everything. It's not like we were using websites. We weren't using Google Docs. They built that amazing assessment. And from there, they gave us audience, and they gave us relevance, and they gave us choice. Our audience was our local community. The relevance was that we were actually fixing something and changing something that mattered to us. And the choice was that we got to pick what we were doing. From there, they individualized instruction to meet our needs. Now, we all know that kids start at a different spot, and it doesn't make sense to march them along a path. So wherever we were at, they helped decide what those worksheets were, what those minor formative assessments were, how we were going to get to that big piece. And that's how they decided those minor details. Then they gave us targeted feedback as quickly as possible. If we were writing something, they'd say, yes, that's right. No, maybe we need to fix this. Yes, that's right. The entire time. And sometimes they'd even give us a little bit of help along the way. They focused on the process and not the product. We say this over and over again. Carol Dweck, the growth mindset. It's all about how you get there. It's not necessarily what the final product looks like. And finally, success isn't an option. You may get an A, but that doesn't mean you succeeded. It's about what you learned along the way. So, this is what my amazing teachers did. And that sounds absolutely great in theory, but this is what a rubric looks like. Who's a teacher? Raise your hand. This is what a rubric looks like. Every time I try to explain this to someone, I explain, we have all these different criterias. And it doesn't matter what the project is, one little row on this can be split into this many different lessons. So if one kid is having an issue with something like sentence fluency, then I have to teach fragments, I have to teach run-ons, I have to teach prepositional phrases. It is literally impossible to personalize learning for one student. And the thing is, we don't just have one student. We have a class of 25 students. And usually we are teaching 6 classes. What? That's okay, raise your, yes, you all agree with me. This is impossible. Okay. All right, so basically the lesson that we're going over here is technology should not replace good teaching. Absolutely not. It should enhance good teaching. So the question is, How do we do that? We have always had technology. Once upon a time, a pencil and a piece of paper was technology. Then we moved to the typewriter. Then we moved to computers. Now we've got something completely new, and that's what this big transformation is. It's not a transformation in teaching. It's that we now have different tools. And the big one is we now have the ability to put things into the cloud and share and collaborate. And that's what Google's doing right now. So one of the things I've been working on, and Robert's here, so I'm going to point him out later, and Kelsey, yes. I'm a Google certified teacher. Robert and Kelsey, can you raise your hand? Robert and Kelsey are Google certified teachers, and something we've been working on this whole year for our Google project is a giant course for our teachers aligned to the nets as well as personalized learning. So a quick explanation of this is that before, when you wanted to type something, you went on the computer. And then your student printed it out, they handed it into you, you marked it up, and then it came back to the computer. There's a more efficient way to do that. You share the document and you can see it in real time. So this is what that looks like. I'm going to go into my Google Docs. I'm going to create a document. I'm going to title it, and from there, I'm going to start typing and I'm going to share it with my teacher. As an English teacher, I now have complete control over every kid's document from the moment they start it till the moment they finish it. That complete control is scary, but it is the best way to personalize learning for my students because I can go in wherever they are and say, all right, we need to work on topic sentences. We need to work on paragraphs. And it doesn't matter where they are, I can help them. They're not creating an essay, turning it in, handing it back. It's now a revolving process. It's not multiple drafts. It's one draft that never ends. And it might show up for a second here, but I can also go to File and see revision history. It'll pop up. I can also look at every single revision on that kid's essay. So when we talk about the growth mindset, I can say, go back to this revision, figure out when you learn to write a topic sentence. I can add comments as they go. All right. I'm going to skip that. But basically, what we're trying to prove is that technology is about being more efficient and more effective, and that's it. So this is why we're teaching Google Sites. Google Sites is our big one. I love Google Sites because I'm going to skip right over to this. How many people have seen classrooms where every single bin is organized? Every single bin has a label. How many people have classrooms like this? Kids know where to go. You say, go to door number 2, second shelf, that's where the pens and paper are. How many people organize their digital life? Not many. And that's why it's scary. That's why it is scary to send kids into the cloud because you don't know where they're going to go. It's hard to do projects when you don't have that. So here's why we are using Google Sites. Now, 3 of those units on that course that we're building use Google Sites. The first one is content management systems. Every single one of my teachers by August are going to have a Google website. Some are using it just to give contact information for parents. Other teachers are using it as a full-blown learning management system with everything else built in. So it's not necessarily about having Moodle or having Edmodo or having Schoology, which are all great. It's about just having one place to organize information. The other reason we're teaching Google Sites is because of the other ways we're using it. Open educational resources. We're starting to curate resources in departments. So our social studies department is working together to find the best content that they want to use for their students. How do we organize that? Because they already know how to use Google Sites, they create a site together and they put it together. I'll show examples of this later. And the last one is inquiry-based learning. It's scary to say to a kid, go out and build this project. We now have templates where students help decide those standards and all of their pieces get put into this website, which they share with the teacher. So it makes that management easier. So it's not about replacing good teaching, it's just about organizing it. That's it. All right. So here's why we're using Google Sites. I'm going to start with why we are using Google Sites for our content management system. We wanted a consistent look for all of the parents and students and community, no matter what platform they ended up using. It didn't matter what learning management system they used because we wanted something that worked for them. But we did want everybody to see the same thing initially when they started. So depending where they are, some eventually move it to a full-blown learning management system. Some simply use it as a portal. There are a lot of other uses for Google Sites, which I'm going to go in through a minute. But this is the big piece. It integrates with everything else. Google Sites is easy. I mean, it's not easy to create it from scratch, but if you give a teacher a template and you explain how to edit different pieces, it's a lot easier to learn. To edit a page, you click a pencil button, you type, and you click save. That's it. So if anybody ever made a website way back in the day when it first started, it was a disaster. This is simply edit, type, click save. You can easily insert gadgets, insert a calendar so students start to learn to self-organize. You can add in announcements. You can embed gadgets. I know Symbaloo somewhere around here. We use this in our library so kids can simply click on the pictures instead of having to read the words at their age. You can embed documents, you can embed videos, you can embed slideshows, and it's literally as easy as clicking insert video. You can embed forms to collect assignments. You can embed entire folders full of resources. You can embed games. That's actually an interactive game they can play while they're on the website. You can embed blogs that they answer to. And the big piece is using a template for consistency. So I worked together with a bunch of other Google trainers in Wisconsin and all around the nation, and we decided to build a template that we were all going to use. So this is a template for our high school teachers. This is a template for a completely different school in a different part of Wisconsin. You'll notice it looks the exact same with a different banner. This is another district in Wisconsin, and this is another district in Wisconsin. So what we did was we decided we're all trying to create the same thing. It doesn't make sense. We talk about collaboration, but how often do we do it ourselves? So we started having these hands-on workshops where everybody would come in, no matter what district they were from, and we'd work together with the same template, and we'd build them at the same time. And then we started also supporting it with online tutorials. So this is the course that I'm building with Kelsey and Robert and a couple other people. But we have the exact same course for all of our teachers to use. And they can go on at any time and watch the videos. Or they can come to our workshop, follow the tutorials, and get some hands-on coaching. Or we can go one-on-one with them. So really, this is about providing the PD for our teachers that we're teaching them to provide for their students. All right. And this will be finished at the end of July. You're welcome to check it out if you'd like to. Okay, I've got about 7 more minutes, so I'm going to show a few more of my teachers' websites. So this is what a finished website for our Library Media Center looks like. As you can see, they put little buttons on. If you click on a kid's grade, it pulls up that Symbaloo feed. They did that as easily as creating a Symbaloo feed and then clicking Insert Gadget and adding an iframe gadget. This one is actually not even for a teacher website. I used to manage a theater, and we had a website just for people to check out events. If I scroll down, you'll notice there's an embedded calendar. If you click on one of these, you can eventually get to a place where you can order tickets online. So what we found was once people learned the tool, it was easier to throw everything else on there. All right, phase 2 is when teachers aren't just displaying information, but they're starting to organize resources. So we started using digital bins, and that was a collaboration between department members as well as library media specialists and content area experts. So they'd create one template, and then they'd add in photos, articles, links to websites, and they'd curate resources together. And it was as easy as clicking insert link or add file or add link. So now we have teachers working together to build digital bins instead of just bins at the library. The next one is entire units of study. So we have some teachers working together to build entire units that they send their kids to. They'll link it on their original website, but they'll build this unit together so kids can go in and they can do the same activities at the same time. The next one is full courses. So this is actually the course we're building for PD. But a teacher can go on here and literally take any unit just by clicking through each piece. So you click on Unit 2 and you have every single lesson. And at the end of each lesson, you can take a short little activity and you can build that piece in. And finally, the big one is managing project-based learning. So this is a scary one because this is the one where I did not feel comfortable until probably my last year teaching, and even then, I was completely overwhelmed. You need a place to be able to organize it. So every kid would use this template and they'd create their own project through it. They'd work with the teacher to figure out how they were going to meet the standards. They'd add in their activity plans, and then they'd start tracking those activities. They'd add in their research, and actually the English department would help support this through scaffolding. They'd add in their artifact, and they'd reflect on it. And finally, they'd post their final product on the shared website for all of the students. So this was just done a month ago by our 7th grade team, which was about 150 students. They each went into the community, tried to fix something, and when they were done, they ended up posting on a website that everybody could see. So some kids went in and interviewed business members, other students went out and raised money for the homeless shelter, but they all organized their project through a shared website template.